Picture this. It's a Friday night in Indio, California. 75,000 people. Wall-to-wall country music, overpriced drinks, and a crowd that paid hundreds of dollars to be there. And then, without warning, the whole thing falls apart. High winds rip through Stagecoach Music Festival on April 25th, 2026. Emergency services moved in. 75,000 people were forced to evacuate mid-set. Exits were blocked. Buses weren't ready. Families got separated. By the end of the weekend, nearly 120 arrests. That is the official disaster. That is the headline story. But this video isn't about the wind, because while thousands of ordinary people were being herded into car parks in the dark, a very specific group of celebrities had found each other on the other side of the security barrier. In the VIP area, at a karaoke bar, and the 4 people in that room, what they represent individually and together tells us far more about how Hollywood actually works than any festival chaos ever could. Here's what the internet clocked within hours of the footage surfacing. Ashton Kutcher Mila Kunis, Scooter Braun, and Sydney Sweeney sitting on Scooter Braun's shoulders. 4 people. 1 karaoke bar. And between them, a combined weight of public controversy that most celebrities never survive even a fraction of. The comment sections lit up immediately. Every cancelled celebrity found each other. Hold on, when exactly did we decide these people were okay again? And then this one, Sydney Sweeney is literally just playing Cassie in real life at this point. That last comment? That's where we're going first, because this video is really about 3 things. It's about Sydney Sweeney, and whether she is consciously or unconsciously living out the exact psychological arc of Cassie Howard in real life while Euphoria is still airing. It's about Scooter Braun, and why choosing him specifically matters once you understand his history. And it's about Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, and the uncomfortable question nobody in Hollywood wants to answer out loud. When exactly did we uncancel them? Because nobody announced it, nobody voted. It just happened. And the fact it happened tells us something deeply uncomfortable about celebrity culture. Let's get into it. Sydney Sweeney is 28 years old, from Spokane, Washington. And in less than 5 years, she became one of the most talked about actresses in Hollywood. First Euphoria, then The White Lotus, then Anyone But You, then Immaculate. The career is real. The talent is real. But the controversies have followed her constantly. There was the birthday party controversy in 2021, the politically charged imagery online, the backlash. And her response? Carefully vague, then the Good Genes campaign. Depending on who you asked, it was either clever marketing or a PR disaster waiting to happen. And then the bathwater campaign. At a certain point, the internet stopped reacting to isolated incidents and started noticing a pattern of choices that invite scrutiny, and then dodge direct explanation. But none of that is as interesting as what happened in her personal life, because this is where things stop feeling random. This is where it starts feeling almost scripted. Here's what you need to understand about Cassie Howard. Cassie begins Euphoria as deeply sympathetic. She wants love, validation, attention, stability. But over time, that need destroys her judgment completely. She repeatedly gravitates toward emotionally unavailable, powerful, toxic men. She ignores obvious red flags because being chosen matters more to her than being safe. That's the tragedy of Cassie Howard. Not evil, not malicious, just emotionally incapable of seeing danger clearly anymore. And by season 3, airing right now, Cassie is in Hollywood trying to become a famous actress while her image publicly unravels. Which brings us back to Sydney, because Sydney Sweeney was engaged to Jonathan Devine, private businessman. Stay below profile. No scandals, no chaos. By all accounts, a steady relationship that lasted 5 years. They split in March 2025. 3 months later, Sydney attended Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding. And in that room, she met Scooter Braun by September 2025. Dating rumors! By April 2026. Sitting on his shoulders in public, she left a stable private relationship and publicly attached herself to one of the most controversial men in entertainment. That is either an astonishing coincidence, or it is Cassie Howard's arc happening in real life. And the timing makes it impossible not to notice. Do you think she's aware of it? Because honestly, that's the part I can't stop thinking about. Because to understand why Scooter Braun specifically matters, you need the full story. And once you understand it, Sydney's choice becomes much harder to explain away as random. Scooter Braun built one of the most powerful management empires in music history. Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Kanye West. For years, he was viewed as a genius operator. But for millions of people, especially Swifties, Scooter Braun will always be remembered for one thing. Taylor Swift's masters. In 2019, Braun's company acquired Big Machine Records, which owned Taylor Swift's original albums. Taylor publicly stated she found out through a Tumblr post. She described the situation as her worst-case scenario. Braun denied wrongdoing and framed it as a business deal, but the public perception never recovered.
After I was denied the chance to purchase my music outright, my entire catalog was sold to Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings. None of these investors have ever bothered to contact me or my team directly to perform their due diligence on their investment in me, to ask how I might feel about the new owner of my art, the music I wrote, the videos I created. The definition of the toxic male privilege in our industry is people saying, but he's always been nice to me, when I'm raising valid concerns about artists and their rights to own their music. Yet the most amazing thing was to discover that it would be the women in our industry who would have my back and show me the most vocal support at one of the most difficult times, and I will never, ever forget it.
The cool part is, if you actually pay attention, everybody in the end won.
What do you mean?
Well, yes, she could have bought them back, and that could have been part of the victory, but I choose to think her team maybe didn't tell her. But like, we ended up, when they turned it down, we ended up selling it to someone else because she didn't want us to have it. We did very well in that sale because we bought it at a really great price, and the value of masters went up. And the thesis when I sold it was, she had announced she was going to do re-records. And if you understand music, the value went up for masters because Spotify and streamers created a longer decay than buying just CDs. So it's like people would listen to them more, so there's a longer decay, but it's still decaying. But when she re-records, all ships rise in a world of streaming. So people were going on and they were A-Bing them. They were listening to see how much they sounded like. So she did incredibly well, and basically had the biggest moment of her career, reinvigorating her career with each.
And Taylor's response became legendary. She re-recorded her albums, Taylor's version. One by one, she systematically rebuilt ownership of her catalog while publicly reclaiming her narrative. By 2025, she reportedly bought back her original masters entirely. This became much bigger than celebrity gossip. It became a story about power, about ownership, about who gets control over someone's life's work, and Scooter Braun became permanently associated with the opposite side of that story.
But I think I'm better at standing up for myself when I've been wronged. So that's something that I think also comes with growing up.
Which brings us to Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
Face. And so you didn't see it coming?
No.
So how did you find out?
I found out when it was online, like when it hit the news.
Nobody in your inner circle
Nobody knew.
And you didn't smell it?
No.
Which is why Sydney Sweeney choosing him publicly feels so significant. Because this isn't some obscure executive nobody knows about. She walked into a room full of powerful people and chose the one person guaranteed to generate instant controversy online. Again, Cassie Howard behavior. Clock every red flag in the room and walk directly toward it. Is she aware, or is not seeing it the entire point? But Sydney and Scooter are only half this story, because the other couple in that karaoke room forces a completely different question. A much darker one. Is cancellation even real anymore? For years, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis were Hollywood's most likable couple. Not the flashiest, not the richest, just liked. They felt normal. Then came Danny Masterson. In 2023, Masterson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 30 years in prison. And before sentencing, Ashton and Mila submitted character letters asking the judge for leniency. The backlash was immediate, because this wasn't a case where the allegations were hidden or unknown. People looked at two celebrities whose entire image was built around being the good ones, and suddenly questioned whether any of it had ever been real.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years. so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
They were intended for the judge to read, and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that. And we're sorry if that has taken place.
Our heart goes out to every single person who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse, or rape.
Then came the apology video, and somehow it made everything worse. It felt corporate, managed, emotionally hollow. The internet tore it apart almost instantly. And yet, here we are. Golden Globes in 2026. Stagecoach in 2026. Back in public again? So when exactly did we uncancel them? The answer is uncomfortable. We didn't. They just kept showing up until the outrage cycle moved on. And that reveals something important. Hollywood has an incredibly short memory for people it already likes. Public goodwill works like a bank account, and Ashton and Mila had spent 20 years depositing into it. One scandal damaged the balance, but it didn't erase it completely. So eventually, the industry let them back in. Quietly, without ever officially saying so. Here's what Stagecoach 2026 actually reveals. Not just about these four people, but about celebrity culture itself. The internet believes consequences are permanent. Hollywood doesn't. Hollywood believes in proximity, in access, in visibility, in simply continuing to appear. The people who keep showing up eventually stop looking controversial. They become normal again through repetition. Ashton and Mila waited, Scooter Braun waited, and Sydney Sweeney appears to have stopped caring whether people approve of her choices at all. And there they all are, in a karaoke bar, laughing. This isn't really a conversation about whether any of these people deserved consequences. It's a conversation about memory. About who gets to reset, and who never does. And then there's Sydney, making choices that mirror Cassie Howard's arc so precisely that it almost feels impossible to ignore. She left stability. She chose controversy, and she allowed herself to be publicly photographed in the middle of all of it. So, what is it? Naive? Calculated? Performance art? Or just projection from the internet? Cassie Howard would call it love. The internet says otherwise. What do you think? Is Sydney Sweeney consciously living out her character's arc? Completely unaware of it? Or is the comparison just too perfect to ignore? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe if you want more deep dives like this. The next one is going to be even more uncomfortable. See you there.